Okay. Well, good evening. My name is Val Walters. I am the Executive Director of the Ryan Bartel Foundation. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We are getting ready to get back to school, and oftentimes that brings on a lot of excitement, but also some stress and anxiety from us as parents as well as our teens. So this evening we have got two resources who are going to talk to us about things that we've got going on both within our Loudoun County public school systems and within the Loudoun County public library systems that can act as supports for your teens, for yourselves, as we kind of kick off the school year. So I wanted to just take a couple of minutes before we officially get started to tell you a little bit about the foundation. A lot of times I just kind of really go through this very quickly because I assume that you all know who we are and the types of programs that we do for teens and for families. But I want to just take a quick pause and tell you that we are a youth suicide prevention organization in Loudoun County. We work with families, we work with teens, we don't do crisis services. What we do is we work in the upstream prevention space. And what that means is that we try to build skills and resiliency for your teens so that they can handle those inevitable ups and downs that life may throw at them. So we do that in a lot of different ways. Some of you may have heard of our FORT program that we do once a month. We do that throughout Loudoun County. And that's a program where kids learn hands-on skills, where they can do animal experiences. They can learn about meditation and art and music. And our goal is that they take those skills that they're learning in those workshops and leverage those skills when they're feeling anxious or sad or need just a little bit of a coping skill. So for example, if they like to doodle, we talk to them how they can use doodle as a way to combat anxiety. So things like that happen at the FORT. Our other program is our FORTitude teen workshops. We do those in partnership with the libraries. Those are resiliency building workshops, mostly for our teenagers, 13 to 17, 18-year-old. The FORT is usually open for kids 12 to 18, just because of the type of experience they have. The workshops tend to be a little more curriculum based, and so there's a lot more sitting and engaging in conversations. The workshops, you can find all the registration information for those on our website. We do our parent panels once a month, again, trying to hit topics that are really important to parents and share additional resources. And more recently, we've launched our parental support groups. And those are very small, intimate groups for parents who need some support through the community, through other parents on struggles that their teens may be having. So our next parent support group is going to be on September 7th. You can find the registration for that on our website as well. And finally, we are a nonprofit, and in September we have our second fundraising event, and it's We're All Human Color Run. It's going to be at Woodgrove High School on September 25th. It is a fun run. It's not timed. It's just an opportunity to come out with your family and engage, have just a really good time, get a little messy with some color. And we are also looking for lots of teen volunteers. So if your teen is interested in a volunteer opportunity, they can reach out to us as well. So that just covers a few of our programs. And again, our website is got a ton of information. We do use social media to share our information as well. And many of you get our peach jars that come out through LCPS, so you can always stay up to date on our programs. So let's get started with tonight's program. Again, resources to help you kick off to having a healthy, happy new school year with your teens. We've got two great folks with us, Erin Dagramenjan and Sadaf Khan. Erin, I'm going to give you just a couple of minutes to introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Erin Dagramenjan, and I am a programming coordinator at Loudoun County Public Library. I work with the teen population and also with English learners. For Loudoun County, just a heads up for Loudoun County Public Library, we consider teens middle school and high school. So we'll have some 11 and 12-year-olds thrown into the mix as well. But you'll see me around at lots of different teen-related programs at Loudoun County Public Library. You'll also see me at a lot of outreach events, local festivals and fairs, and those kinds of things as well.
And we're lucky to have Erin as one of our volunteers as well. So she's out at the fort doing some great activities with the teens. And Sadaf, I'll go ahead and give you a couple minutes to introduce yourself.
Hi, good evening. So I'm Sadaf Khan. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and I'm a school social worker with LCPS. I've been with LCPS for about 10 years now. I work in the Sterling area. I was at Riverbend Middle School, Algonquin Elementary, Potomac Elementary, Sugarland for a bit. Now my primary school is Potomac Falls High School.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. The start of the school year. It can be really exciting. Lots of new things kind of kicking off the school year, but it can also be a time of stress and anxiety. We've got kids who may be dealing with school refusal, not wanting to go back, and kids just being apprehensive about really not knowing what the school year is going to hold. Even things like knowing who their teachers are going to be and who's going to be in their classes. So Sadaf, from a social worker perspective and a Loudoun County public school perspective, what are some of the things that parents can do right now to prepare their kids to address some of that stress that they might be facing right now?
So sometimes, it's looking at how anxiety presents. It can present in a lot of different ways. So some of our kids are very vocal about it. Like, I don't want to go to school. I don't have anybody to talk to. I'm really worried my friends aren't going to be in class with me. I don't know the teachers. The work is going to be harder. Whereas some of our other kiddos can be not vocal, but kind of show more behavior. So sleeping in a lot more, maybe losing their appetite, or maybe eating a lot more than they typically do. Maybe being a little bit more irritable and that's a typical teen experience. But if you notice it occurring maybe a few days before the start of the school year, and they're seeing school supplies everywhere, getting emails from their counselor, hearing about orientation. So those are kind of some of the things to look out for when we're looking for anxious behavior in our kids. Great thing to do is just start that routine back up. I know summer can be kind of flexible. Sleep in a little later, wake or fall asleep a little later. So maybe the week before. So we are at the week before now because school will start in about a week. Getting that schedule back into habit, developing that habit. So falling asleep at a certain time, eating dinner at a certain time, making sure your kids are eating. Having them practice like figuring out like how they're going to pack their lunch. Are they going to pack their lunch? Is mom going to pack their lunch? How are they, are they getting on a bus? Where is their bus going to be? Maybe even linking them up to some friends just ahead of time, or like classmates or other kids in the area, to talk about like, hey, are you nervous? Do you have this teacher? Do you have this class? So that they can at least build some relationships before school starts, because the primary, role of schools, aside from education, is like social learning. And a lot of our kids are socially anxious, especially after the pandemic. They've kind of lost some of those skills to relate to each other and connect with each other in person. So really paying attention to those behaviors and sitting down and just being upfront and honest with them. Like, I was anxious too, and it can be nervous, but if we push through that first day, you're going to find yourself going back into that routine like last year.
So thank you so much. Those are great things that parents can start doing right now. If you're concerned about your child's anxiety about starting school and you're seeing some of those more stressful, types of behaviors, should parents be reaching out to their school counselor before school starts?
Absolutely. Like, if you feel like your kiddo is overly anxious, so there's a difference between feeling anxious and having anxiety, right? All of us feel anxious and we get nervous and worried, and we use our coping strategies to kind of get through that nervous or anxious situation. But if you feel like, your child is overly anxious, is like saying they're not going to go to school, they don't have any friends, they're depressed, they're not, they're kind of losing interest in other activities, reach out to your school counselor, reach out to your school social worker, let them know that this is happening. So if I've had some parents at Potomac Falls reach out to me, And next week I'm going to be doing like small tours of the building, helping students find their classes in a more quiet environment that's not orientation, because that can be overwhelming. So these are all things that you can set up ahead of time before school starts, having them meet their teachers, having them meet their counselor, knowing how you can go to the counselor if you're feeling anxious.
Great. Thanks, Adolph. And again, please don't hesitate to use the chat if you have any questions that you'd like us to make sure that we cover. So let's move on to now school starts and the homework starts coming in and the projects start rolling in and academic pressure starts building. So Erin, I was wondering if you could just outline what are some of the academic type of support services that the libraries have. And as I understand, these are mostly programs that are free of charge.
Yes, so at Loudoun County Public Library, everything is free. We don't charge for any of our services. We don't charge to get a library card, to go to a program, to use any of our print or digital resources. Everything is completely free. So for academic support, I would say, well, we are a library. We do have lots of books. I think most importantly for a lot of teens, getting them comfortable talking to a staff member is really important. So if you ever go with your teen to the library, making sure to like introduce them to a staff member so they know that they can ask a staff member for help in finding those academic resources when they need them. But we have lots of different study guides. We even have books on CD if they need that. A lot of our digital resources are more popular these days. We have several databases that the schools, in addition to what the schools also have, the schools I think are teaching their students about digital resources, but we also have a lot of homework help databases they can use. We also have resources like Hoopla and Libby, which both have fun resources. So if your teen wants to read the latest young adult novel, they can do that there, but they can also get, again, a lot of really good study guides, a lot of really good academic resources on those as well. And you just need a library card to log into those.
So I know that there's a lot of study rooms at the library, like quiet study spaces. Are there groups of like teens who obviously are meeting there themselves, but are there any tutoring types of services or programs that are offered within the library system?
So a lot of the libraries, we don't specifically have tutoring on site. We do have a lot of tutors that use the libraries for sure. So if you have a tutor with your student, or if you have, students who want to work together, we've got lots of great meeting spaces, small meeting rooms that fit 1 or 2 people where they can just sit quietly and study. But in addition to that, we've started reserving the larger meeting rooms for study halls, basically, especially around midterms or finals season. You'll see things like teen study group or teen study hall on the calendars. And those are just rooms that are quiet where teens can study and work together to work on projects.
Great, thank you. So Sadaf, from an academic perspective, I know that students who need IEPs, that they'll work directly with the school on that process. But what are some of the academic supports that parents can be sort of preparing for in advance through the school system?
So oftentimes, like the most common one is homework club, usually, and that's offered typically at all 3 levels, elementary, middle, and high school. And it's typically after school on one of the days that the activity bus is present. A lot of times our students feel nervous or uncomfortable taking the activity bus because it's a different bus. They don't know where the bus will drop them off. But usually checking in with one of the secretaries, they'll show them exactly where the bus will drop them off and when the bus will drop them off. So they don't have to have that excessive worry. We also have at the high school level, National Honor Societies offer tutors during like resources and study halls. We don't offer the names of our National Honor Society students to parents, but we advocate, or we encourage our students to advocate for themselves. to reach out to one of the NHS tutors. There's a list of tutors that typically have their names, their email addresses, and what subjects that they are comfortable tutoring. So if the student emails that tutor, they can set up a time to meet with them during a resource block or maybe during lunch, where they can review some topics that they feel not as strong in. There's also frequently at Potomac Falls, it's called Math Lab. It's like one of the blocks where students can go during resource and request extra help with math. The easiest and most common is often just emailing your teacher and asking them to meet before school or after school. And a lot of teachers are very comfortable doing that. And if transportation is an issue, I've encouraged students to maybe try Google Meet. Like if they can't get to the school when the teacher is there, maybe ask the teacher if they're willing to meet on Google Meet in the morning, because teachers usually get there early in the morning, and some kiddos don't have transportation other than the bus. So there's a lot of different resources. A great, reaching out to myself or the school social worker, reaching out to the school counselor. We can often link up kiddos to some of these services.
Okay, well, thank you. I just want to take a quick pause and see if we have any questions from any of the participants that are on. You can either do it in the chat, or you're welcome to just unmute yourself and share any questions that you might have. No? Okay, well then we'll just kind of continue on. So one of the protective factors that we learn about through our Sources of Strength program is really trying to find a sense of belonging and purpose within a school community, or a community of teens. So Erin, I was hoping that you could talk a little bit about the volunteer programs that you have within the library and creating that kind of a school community.
So we have lots of volunteer opportunities. Actually, all this week I was doing one book preparations with a group of teen volunteers, where they helped prepare this year's one book for distribution. So that was a lot of fun. All 9 branches have teen volunteer opportunities. All they have to do is go into their local branch, talk to a staff member, and they'll get them started. They'll get an application started. We have a lot of different positions. We have what's called a library support volunteer, which does like 1 hour on a weekly basis, whatever the teen services staff needs. So it can be preparing crafts for a program, it can be designing book displays, it can be all kinds of things, but it's usually 1 hour a week. We also have program assistants. So we do a lot of different programs at Loudoun County Public Library. Some of them are very messy. Like we have paint nights, for example, and paint nights are a lot of fun, but someone needs to wash all of those brushes at the end. And that tends to be our teen volunteers. So there are jobs like that are very, very hands-on. And then there are some jobs that are more like shelf reading, that are a little bit quieter, just making sure the books are in order a lot. So for teens who aren't comfortable doing those big social things, they can still find a community of people who, they like books, they like working with the collections, they like talking about books, and it's a really good chance for them to connect with the staff and also their own peers. And then I would say we also have, for the ones who really want to get engaged, we have teen leadership councils. And most of our branches have teen leadership councils, and they meet once a month and tackle their own large projects. They might design their own programs, design and run their own programs. They create their own book displays and manage them. So that one is very involved, and there's a really solid community of our Teen Leadership Council volunteers. And then we just wrapped up summer reading volunteering. I won't go too much into that since it's just ending, but it starts up around April, May. You'll start hearing about it again. So if you're interested, check back in the spring, and there's lots of opportunities there.
And we were talking just briefly about something that I'm not sure how many parents are aware of, and that's the teen night at the library. Can you share a little bit about what teen night is?
I can. So just so you know, sometimes it's called Teen Night. The official name is After Hours Teen Center, but you will hear a lot of people call it Teen Night. It takes place every Friday night at Cascades Library from 6 to 9 p.m. We close the library at 5 p.m. and then we reopen it for middle and high schoolers only from 6 to 9. So they have almost full run of the library. We have a video game room. We have craft activities. We bring in a special event each week. And so the event changes a lot. DJ nights are very popular. We actually bring in a DJ to the library. We also have laser tag night. That was last week, very popular. But we also do craftier things, like we'll do paint nights. So it's a really good chance to just come in, hang out with your peers. Again, no grown-ups allowed except for the staff. So it's a really good place for them to meet and make friends, practice those social skills, kind of find their groups. Again, there's the really loud, competitive video game kids, and there's also just like the quiet kids who want to do crafts or more intricate activities. So it's a really great experience. Also, we have teen night volunteers as well, to loop it back into the volunteer conversation. We have a very dedicated group of volunteers that comes almost every week. They help us set up, they help us run the programs, and they also help us clean up. And we could not do it without them. So that's another great volunteer opportunity as well. But if they don't want to volunteer, it's also fun to just come.
Great. Thanks, Erin. So Jen, did you get some of those questions that had been submitted? No? You can't access those? Okay. So Yvonne, can you just go ahead and type in your question so we can make sure to cover it? So I think we're having some technical difficulties with being able to access those questions that you may have popped in as you registered for your Zoom. So if you did submit a question, it looks like we can't access those right now. So if we can go ahead and if you want to go ahead and just pop them in the chat, we can make sure to cover it. So how can a teen overcome shyness? Specific strategies on how to not exclude from his or her friends. How to not be excluded. Yeah, that's pretty, I think that's a fairly common thing as kids kind of navigate through middle and high school. Sadaf, did you want to tackle that?
Yeah, definitely. So this is, we often have small counseling groups available at school. That's one of our primary responsibilities as school social workers. And one of the most common groups that I facilitate is like a making friends or a keeping friends group. Oftentimes in the making friends group, I'll have kids that are very, very shy. And really the focus of the group ends up being like a self-acceptance groups. Because oftentimes kids feel like they need to be talking all the time. They need to be bubbly. They need to be like a certain type of teen to be able to make friends. And typical for middle and high school kids is to have a group of friends, and then it changes, and then it changes again, and it changes again. And typically that solid group for most kids doesn't establish until junior and senior year. Once kids become comfortable in their own skin. So some kids are really good listeners and enjoy listening over talking, but they'll be able to make relationships with friends who are very chatty and love to talk. And as somebody that's shy myself, I have a lot of chatty friends, but they also know that, or I also know that they're going to be there to listen to me when I do need to talk about something. So we really focus on accepting themselves as they are, not like, so there's a difference between shyness and social challenges, right? So if the student wants to say something and they feel hesitant or uncomfortable, we often focus on, like I typically often focus on what's the worst that can happen, right? The worst that can happen is, and this might be a little much, but this is what I share with students, is like, you might throw up, and you threw up in front of everybody. right? And then what happens? You typically, go to the bathroom, clean up, and then what happens? People may talk about it for a day, and then what happens? It becomes like something people ask you about in a way that maybe they can engage you with. Um, so kind of turning situations that are difficult into situations that can allow for conversation, right? The worst that can happen is you throw up and then life goes on.
So then I hope that answers your question. So maybe you want to get with your school counselor just to see if there are some small groups that might be appropriate for your teen. And I'll just speak as a mom. Specific strategies are not to be excluded. I think that's just we as parents want to fix a lot of things for our teens, and sometimes it's really hard when we see that they are being excluded and being left out. And I think in an age where everything is on social media, when I was growing up, if I didn't get invited to a birthday party, I really didn't know that I didn't get invited, right? But now you don't get invited, and it's all over every social media app available, and everybody is posting. And so it creates this additional pressure of having to fit in and to be included. And so when somebody is not, the pain of not being included is so much, I think it's just so much more, I don't know, just it's out there. And so it's really hard for parents. I think just supporting your teen, as a mom, I've had to deal with that, and just kind of supporting them and having them sort of feel that pain of rejection. And I think as a parent, I've seen where that has built some resiliency, being able to give them that support that they needed at that time. But, knowing that deep down inside, it really is kind of a painful time. I think I see another question. I think my teen would enjoy after school club, but she is too shy to just show up for the first time. How can I push her into that without being a helicopter mom? Oh, that's a tough one. We as moms are we really want them to try new things. So Sadaf, do you have like some ideas for how to encourage your kid without having to feel as if you're really kind of pushing them too hard?
Absolutely. So I can speak for Potomac Falls specifically. They have this is called a fair at the falls, and I know other schools have it, but they do it differently. And at the fair, they kind of showcase all the clubs. You can put down your email on different clubs that you're interested in, and they'll send you an email about when to meet. If a student feels too shy to kind of attend the first meeting, and they're like, I won't know anybody. I think school engagement is a big part of kids thriving in school. And I'm not one for forcing kids to do something, but you could do something similar to like, I want you to pick one club. I don't care what club it is. And I want you to attend the first meeting, and I'll pick you up after school at this time, and I will be there. And then you can tell me whether or not you enjoyed it. So that's kind of encouraging, your child to participate, giving them the option of what they want to participate in, and kind of like saying, I'll pick you up at this time. So if you're going to be in the building anyway, you might as well just go to the club. If a student is super shy and they feel like they want some support, you can even reach out to your school counselor if they're facilitating a club, maybe a teacher that they're close to that's facilitating a club. I often stay after school till about 4:30, 4:45. So if a student wants to just hang around in the back of the room where the club is happening, I'd be happy to just kind of hang with them. I'm surprised at how many kids are totally okay having an adult next to them in high school. It wasn't the thing when we were in high school, but they're absolutely okay with it now. So reaching out to your school social worker and having them build that relationship with your child could be very important. But also like kind of, some of our kids need a little bit of pushing. So you choose which club, I'll see you afterwards.
I think what's interesting about the clubs, and I think we talked about this a little bit earlier, is that there's really clubs for everything, whether they're ethnicity-based clubs or affinity-based clubs or, hobbies and interests. I mean, there's gaming clubs, there's, dancing clubs, there's music, there's, Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, there's just every kind of club you can imagine. So, and actually that was one of the things that I wanted us to make sure that we covered is that, especially for our high schoolers, there are so many clubs and activities. How does, somebody perhaps with a rising ninth grader kind of get their child to get, connected with one of these clubs or one of these groups that can create that support system and create that their own group of people so that perhaps they're not feeling excluded or left out?
I would definitely encourage going to that opening kind of fair or the open night where they have the club tables available. Almost all high schools have this so that students can connect and get to know, and the clubs like showing off and like decorating their booths and having little things available for students to kind of take with them. Um, it's a very kind of like open environment where the student can kind of wander around. They don't have to socialize if they don't want to, but they can kind of see what maybe piques their interest. And they're like, oh, I didn't know there was a Dungeons and Dragon club, or I didn't know there was an art club. And so they can just kind of wander around. They don't have to commit to anything, but it gives them like a visual of what is available. And if for some reason like a student can't make that, we do have most schools have a list of clubs available on their student activities page. A lot of schools use Twitter and a lot of schools use Instagram to kind of put their message out there. So following the school's Twitter page, most kids have Twitter, or following the school's Instagram page so that they're aware of kind of what is available to them.
Great. So one of the questions that has come up a couple of times is as our children are going through into middle school and high school, we go from, in elementary school where there's a homeroom mom and there's, a very ancillary kind of group of kids that are together to, navigating middle school where they're starting to be on their own. And then in high school where they're, could be even driving themselves to school. How do parents start creating an environment where they're allowing children to advocate for themselves and to kind of step into a more active role in their social, emotional, and academic learning?
I think the biggest piece is listening. Often our kiddos say a lot, and they may say it irritably. They may say it in a harsh tone because they're going through that hormonal flux that teens do. But really, instead of reacting to something or reacting to a tone, really stopping and listening to them and be like, okay, I heard you. And giving them the space to explore their independence within limits. So really understanding like a limit could be, we don't do sleepovers. So that's the limit. You can spend time with your friends. You can stay out maybe a little bit longer and I'll pick you up, or your friend can drop you off. And that teaches them that they are gaining a little bit more independence, but there are boundaries within that independence. And they may argue and fight as teens do, but structure is necessary for teens to grow within. And so as much as they dislike it, most kids do appreciate it. I'm kind of like the old saying, like I didn't, everything that my mom said when I was a kid was right. And now I'm saying it back to my kids. So they do appreciate and recognize the need for that structure, though they may not vocalize that. And letting them make decisions that, aren't going to be impactful to their safety. So like if they want to dye their hair blue, you could be like, well, how do you anticipate doing that? Where are you going to find the funding for that? Because that's not, dyeing their hair blue might be something they want to do, but it's not going to impact them in school. It's not going to impact them, but by trying to control that behavior, they may feel much more boxed in, right? Letting them pick their extracurriculars. I know a lot of parents want them to be like, maybe like, why don't you drop this extracurricular to do an AP, or but really letting them explore the creative side of school as well, to kind of grow in all aspects of their life.
So when do you think that students, if they're having some kind of conflict, some kind of struggle within the school year, whether it's, struggling in math or not doing so well in science, or, just even school refusal, where do you start giving that teen, young adult, that opportunity to start advocating for themselves? How do you encourage them to reach out to that teacher, or to make an appointment to talk about doing a retake? How does a parent kind of navigate that so that they're teaching valuable skills for that kid to be able to have later on?
Definitely. So that is one of the biggest pieces around 8th grade and on. We encourage kids to often advocate for themselves. I know it can be difficult for parents when a kid comes home and says, my teacher hates me and I'm getting bad grades because my teacher hates me and that's it. And I talked to her in class, but their perception of talking may be very different from our perception of talking. They could be like, what is this? And to them, they were communicating, I don't understand. Whereas the teacher may be like, this is a piece of paper, or, this is the assignment for today. So really teaching them those communication skills. If they say something to you, and you don't understand, instead of saying, I don't know, or you could ask them, like, can you explain it in a different way, or try, sharing it a different way so that I understand better. And then also, instead of reaching out to their counselor or their teacher on their behalf, encourage them to do it on their own. A lot of kids don't feel comfortable talking, but thankfully, with the Chromebooks, email is a thing, right? All students have access to their school email all the time. And I will often sit down when a student comes to me to complain about a teacher, or complain about a grade, or they don't know how to take a retake. I'll sit down with them, have them open their email and write the email. Sometimes they really just don't know how to write an appropriate email. So it has to be like teaching them, like, say, like, hello, Miss So-and-so, and then expressing their concern and having them thank them for the opportunity to take the retake. And then I have them send it in front of me so that they don't, one, forget to hit send, and then, or two, feel so nervous about sending it that they don't end up sending it. So really, like, if you feel like, a student, your child is struggling in a class, sit down with them and have them draft an email to the teacher about how they can get extra help, if they can get extra help, or, asking for help in understanding a subject that they may be struggling in.
Thanks, Adaf. Erin, I think we kind of had talked earlier about how the library, some of the teen center, or some of the clubs at the library can create that opportunity for teens to have, again, community, because we know that community is really important to teens, and having a good group of peers, that support system is really valuable for their mental health. You were going to share a little bit of information about those clubs within the library system.
Absolutely. And just to kind of go off of what Sadaf was saying earlier about letting the teens choose for themselves what they wanted to do. A lot of our libraries have teen only spaces. So it's like a partitioned off section of the library that is just for teens. It has all of the YA books, all of the YA resources. It has the teen services staff are all in that area. So it's very specific for teens. And a lot of the teen programs are also run in that area, in those areas. So if you go to Russ Library, for example, and your teen is very shy, they might want to go into the teen space because there's video games and there's books that they can play passively, just kind of at their own pace. They don't have to talk to anyone to do those things, but they'll see a program going on at the tables, and they will be welcomed to join that program if they want to, or they can just hang out and read books and play video games and just watch the program sitting in the back if that makes them a little more comfortable. And it's a nice way to ease in to those kinds of clubs for very shy teens. We have, I think, as Sadaf said, we have a surprising number of teens who are very comfortable talking to adults. Also not a thing when I was a teenager, but We have teens who are too shy to go talk to their peers, but they will happily talk to the teen librarian sitting at the desk. And that teen librarian can kind of just help them feel more comfortable in that space and introduce them to those programs. So to talk a little bit about the actual programs, we have a lot of different programs. I'm going to focus a little bit more on the inclusive. All of our programs are inclusive, but a little bit more of the tailored inclusivity programs that might be good for teens who are experiencing different things than maybe some other teens. I wanted to start by talking about Dungeons and Dragons. I know that got brought up earlier. Dungeons and Dragons has been huge for socially anxious teens. It is a way for them to pretend. They create their own characters. They use their imaginations. They put themselves into pretend scenarios. And most importantly, they have to work with their group to solve those problems. So it's a really, really great way to encourage relationship building with their peers and also social skills, problem solving skills. I highly recommend Dungeons and Dragons clubs. We have them at almost all of our branches at this point because they've been very popular. So just check out our calendars to see when those occur. Again, very good for shy teens who need to break out of their shells a little bit. But we have some more specific clubs. We have our escape room book club, and we also have our next chapter book club. And these are book clubs for people who are, so escape room book club is specifically, it has a lot of considerations for teens with ADHD and ASD. So if your teens are dealing with some of the social issues that go along with ADHD and ASD, it's a really good club for them. Again, a great way to meet peers who are maybe going through the same things as them and have the same experiences as them. Likewise, we have the next chapter book club, and these are for, this is teens and adults, but it is for teens and adults who are dealing with intellectual or developmental disabilities like Down syndrome or cerebral palsy. So it's really, really great chance for them to share those experiences with other people. We also have, this is one of our new clubs at Russ Library. It's Chronic and Iconic, which is a great name. And it's an inclusive space for teens with chronic illnesses to meet and hang out. And again, the activities that they do at the club change month to month. I think they are making a tiny stuffed animal this month, but the whole point of the club is to just be able to be with other teens who are going through the same things as them, and to be able to share those experiences and create a peer network of people, again, that share those experiences. Russ Library also has Teen Alliance. That is for our LGBTQ teens. Again, same thing, the activities change month to month, but again, it is a place for LGBTQ teens to just meet and kind of talk about their shared experiences and create that peer network and to be able to feel included, which is, it's so important. I think earlier we were talking about how to have teens not feel excluded, or, you know, how they can feel like they fit in. Finding peers who have those same experiences as them is incredibly helpful in that process. Someone they can relate to, someone they feel comfortable sharing with. So again, we have a ton of other, all of our programs are inclusive. We just have some that are a little bit more specific and are catering a little bit more to those audiences, but definitely check out our calendar. It's library.loudoun.gov/calendar. You can filter for all of our teen programs. So if you just want to see the teen programs, there is a filter for that. And it's a great way to get teens involved. Again, if they are uncomfortable, they can just hang out in the teen spaces. They can talk to the teen librarians if they want to, or they could just read books and just kind of get to know the area, get comfortable with the space before they dive all the way in.
Thanks, Erin. And we'll make sure to have resources sent to everyone with all the library resources and LCPS resources as well, and some other resources that some of our counseling partners are putting together for teens to get comfortable being back in school. So we'll get that out to you all tomorrow. We do have one more question that's popped into the chat How do I encourage my teen to take the classes that teachers have recommended and to make new friends in other circles? His main group of friends are not in the same classes because he is recommended for honor classes. So Daf, do you want to?
Yeah, so we frequently see this, like students don't want to, one, either move up to honors level or AP level classes because their friends are in academic classes, or they feel very left out if they're not referred for honors level or AP level classes if they're in academic classes and their friends are in the higher level classes. I think so taking it from the teen perspective, it can be very difficult to be in a room of 30 teenagers and none of them are your friends or none of them are students that you typically associate with. So maybe having almost like a negotiation with your teen, like, why don't you take 1 or 2 honors level classes and the other 2 can be academic so you do have some time with friends? Or maybe we can talk to your counselor about looking at your schedule and see if we can put you in a study hall that's maybe has your friends in there so you have some time with your friends during the school day. So really working with your teen and not forcing them to participate in class they don't necessarily feel comfortable participating in. They may do well academically, um, but a lot of our teens will kind of like just not try because they don't have the engagement there. And they can definitely make friends in those higher level classes. Um, but giving them the opportunity to get to know those new students while still having time with their group of friends would be important.
Thanks, Sadaf. Just real quick, we are at the 7:50 mark. Jen is going to drop a link to a survey, just a quick Survey Monkey survey for you to, if you wouldn't mind, just a handful of questions to complete. If you liked this workshop and if you liked this parent panel, please let us know. If you didn't like it and if you have other ideas of things that we can do better, please let us know. We want to make sure that these opportunities for discussion are really targeted to the types of topics that you want us to cover. So please just take a couple of minutes and complete that survey for me, please. And before we officially wrap up, I just kind of wanted to ask Aaron and Sadaf, just if you had, just one piece of wisdom, one recommendation for parents as we kick off this new school year. Hopefully it's going to be, really successful and fun and positive school year for you and for your teens. What is that one kind of nugget of wisdom that you'd want to share with parents? Aaron, you want to try?
Well, we kind of already said it earlier, but I will say it again because it has been probably one of the most important aspects of my job working with teens is to just listen to your teens. They are trying to tell you things. They may not have the communication skills that an adult has, but they are trying to talk to you. They are trying to communicate with you. Just listen to them and be open to what they're saying.
Thanks, Aaron. And Sadaf.
So listen would be my main thing too, right? It's the biggest, and it sounds like it's easy to do and you can say, oh, I listen to my child. Of course I listen to my child. But a lot of times kids say things in different ways that we don't necessarily anticipate. Like if they feel really uncomfortable talking about something, they may start dropping hints kind of randomly right before bed, first thing in the morning, right before school. Um, I'm not often surprised, but like a lot of times when I listen to students, I have a very neutral face. So I've heard a lot of things as a social worker, so not much surprises me. Um, but I don't interrupt. I don't judge them for decisions that maybe they've made in the past or choices they've made that they don't particularly enjoy or choices that they regret. But really listening from a non-judgmental tone and not offering advice because it's really easy as adults to be like, I know I've been through that. This is what you should do because I did this and it didn't work out. But really just asking them, okay, that sounds like a tough situation. What are you thinking you can do? Or like, what do you have the ability to do? How can I help you? So really not offering them suggestions, but just kind of hearing them out and having them think through kind of the situation that they're in.
What you're telling me is that I shouldn't fix everything for my kids.
We want to, but it's hard.
It is. And I'm a fixer, so I listen to that very, very intently and try to practice the listening, the non-judgmental, and trying to not fix everything that they bring to me. So thank you for that great reminder. All right, I'm just going to give everyone just one more opportunity to answer any questions that maybe we didn't get to. You're welcome to just pop that into the chat. If you haven't had an opportunity to complete the survey, if you would do that for us, please. We will be back together in September for our next September parent panel. That'll be on, make sure I've got my dates right, the 15th of September. The parent support group will be on the 7th of September. If you want your teen to participate in our September 4th, that'll be on the 18th. And again, you'll be able to find all those dates for all those programs and registration for all those online. So thank you, Sadaf. Thank you, Erin, for being with us tonight. Jen, thanks for being my IT support this evening. And thank you all for joining us.